From Christian Bale's insane body transformations to Jamie Foxx literally blinding himself, actors take their work very seriously. While their entire job involves pretending, sometimes the actors end up going way too far. I'll start with a pretty mild example. Viggo Mortensen preparing for Platoon. And I know what some of y'all might be thinking. Viggo Mortensen wasn't in Platoon. I'll get to that, don't worry. Platoon was a 1986 war movie written and directed by Oliver Stone, who was basing it off his personal experiences as a Vietnam War veteran. Stone was looking to make a movie that'd be a counterpoint to the ones making American soldiers look like badasses in Vietnam. His movie zeroes in on how soldiers are just pawns in a game between politicians, and he uses his experience serving in that war to give it an unmatched sense of authenticity. Viggo was the production's first choice to play the role of Sergeant Elias, and he really did his homework. He spent over a year studying the lives and accounts of soldiers in Vietnam, really getting into the headspace that Oliver Stone had once been in. Unfortunately, Mortensen was eventually snubbed for the film. It turns out that they didn't have the budget to cast him. Instead, they went ahead and hired Willem Dafoe instead. All of Mortensen's effort ultimately went to waste. In hindsight, Viggo has said that he doesn't mind the fact that Dafoe got cast, but he does wish that he'd known about the decision beforehand. And now it's time to dial up the extremeness, which Adrien Brody did by committing a little too hard to his role in The Pianist. If you haven't watched the movie, possibly because of the guy who directed it, let me fill you in on the plot. This movie is adapted from the autobiography of Władysław Szpilman, a Polish and Jewish pianist. He was relatively successful in the music world, and he got to play on Polish radio, which is what he was doing when Germany and the Soviet Union invaded Poland. Szpilman toughed it out in the Warsaw Ghetto, where people suffered from starvation and brutality from the Brody went all in on preparing for this role, and learning to play Chopin on the piano was just the beginning. He withdrew from society in general, giving up his apartment and car, and even breaking up with his girlfriend. He also lost a whole bunch of weight, dropping to just 130 pounds. At least his hard work paid off for him, unlike with Viggo. Brody became the youngest actor ever to win the Oscar for Best Actor, and he still holds the record. In fact, having won the award at age 29, he's the only actor to ever pick up the statue at under 30 years old. But Brody wasn't the only one who took portraying historical figures seriously. Jamie Foxx went the extra mile for his role as Ray Charles. Playing blind characters can be especially challenging for actors. There are certain mannerisms that people have when they genuinely cannot see, and they can be hard to imitate for people pretending to be blind. Fox's solution to this problem? He actually became blind. Specifically, he used prosthetic eyelids that made it so he couldn't see when filming the musician's biopic, Ray. Jamie got more of the experience of being blind than he may have bargained for, though. The actor suffered debilitating panic attacks, and the impact on his mental health nearly affected the film's production. That being said, he's never expressed any regrets about doing this. In fact, he has a sense of humor about the fact that, at times, the cast and crew would forget he was blind, and they'd leave the poor guy standing around on set. But you know, he did win the Oscar for Best Actor, which might be why he's okay with the road he took to get there. And here's another example of an actor immersing themselves into a whole lifestyle. Halle Berry was determined to make a point to Spike Lee. The director has a storied reputation of making subversive movies that challenge our attitudes towards race, and Jungle Fever was no different. It sees a black lawyer, Flipper, destroy his marriage and challenge societal norms to have an affair with his secretary, a white woman. I don't think Halle Berry needs to explain why, as an actress looking for her big break, was desperate to land the role of Vivian, but Lee was reluctant to cast her. For the first time in Hollywood history, an actress was too pretty to portray a woman living on the street. Berry decided to show him that she meant business by actually spending some time living on the street, and she even hit up a drug den in the process. She also decided not to shower for the entire duration of her shoot. All that for a relatively minor character. But I'm sure Spike Lee was impressed. Audiences certainly were. That's the kind of dedication that's made Barry a top-tier actress. When it comes to truly embodying characters, though, we must all bow before the king. Nutritionists and dietitians probably have nightmares about Christian Bale. Besides being one of the greatest Batmen ever, Bale is probably best known for his insane body transformations. It all started with American Psycho, where he played a relatively fit businessman. A few years later, it was time to drop the entire physique for The Machinist. In order to portray a character suffering from mental illness, Bale cut down to 63 pounds, putting his own life at risk to nail the character's appearance. But was that the end of it? Nope. A year later, he was in Batman Begins, for which he'd bulked up like crazy in order to achieve that superhero figure. He stayed at that figure for a while, before becoming overweight ahead of his role as Dick Cheney in 2018's Vice. Bale's insane commitment to these body transformations has actually earned him criticism, even from his fellow actors. These kinds of fluctuations can stress the body a lot, and he isn't getting any younger. It seems like he's cut it out for now, but the stuff he did throughout his early career will always be the stuff of legend. The last actor on the list today didn't necessarily transform his body, but he definitely still went way too far. Leonardo DiCaprio decided to abandon his veganism for one sick moment. This story comes to us from the set of The Revenant. The movie adapts a novel based on the story of Hugh Glass, a frontiersman who managed to survive being attacked by a grizzly bear. That's basically the story of the film, and it's a super intense one. But Leo might have decided to up the intensity of his performance a little further than necessary. Famously, the actor took a bite out of an actual raw bison liver during the shoot. Why would he do this? I genuinely have no idea. Unlike some of the movies we've looked at today, I don't see that the movie is better with this detail than it would be without it. Maybe Leo thought that he needed to pull a crazy stunt like this to finally get an Oscar for his acting. After all, he'd been snubbed for his previous performance in The Wolf of Wall Street, which was one of the best of his career. If that was really what he was going for, then congratulations to Mr. DiCaprio, because it worked. The Revenant finally got him the Oscar that he should have received for so many other movies. I wonder if the Academy actually favors actors who do stuff like this. I'll leave you to think about that as I sign off from this video about actors that went too far.